Welcome back to another episode of Trading Secrets. Today, I am joined by entrepreneur, author, public speaker, and passive income pioneer who has established himself as the king of Airbnb, Brian Page. Brian is best known for being the creator of the BNB formula, which we'll get into, and anyone back home can implement this BNB formula. It's not like you have to have massive capital to do so. He's the world's #1 best-selling Airbnb coach program, which has over 25,000 students in 47 countries around the world. His newest book is set to release on October 18th, titled Don't Start a Side Hustle. It's another one of his successful vehicles educating readers on how to create passive income revenue streams in today's world without having to take on multiple side jobs. So today we're going to discuss Brian's book, how he made money, when he lost every dollar, how he bounced back, in his formula that can help you back at home. So Brian, thank you so much for coming on this episode of Trading Secrets.
Thank you, Jason. Good to be here.
It is good to have you. Well, we're going to get into your success story, but before we get into your success story, I want to talk about the crash, right?
Right.
You had a wild story where you're fired from every job, you come back, you build millions, and then you lose every penny. So I first want to ask you, how much money did you make? How much money did you lose? And how'd you lose it?
All right, let's start at the bottom. This is what I call my richest to rags story. I was not born rich. I was born actually into a very poor family, but in my 20s, I decided that I wanted to become a millionaire. And so I started reading all the books and studying all the gurus, and early on, my influence was Rich Dad, Poor Dad. So I thought, you know what? I'm going to become a real estate investor. I started getting into buying properties and flipping properties. And by the age of 29, right before I turned 30, I became a millionaire. And I thought that I was brilliant because everything I bought went up in value. I didn't realize I was in the middle of a bubble, real estate bubble. And so shortly thereafter, lost everything. So lost millions of dollars in real estate and owed $1.3 million to the IRS.
Wow. And so that's the definition of rock bottom. You got IRS. IRS is at your front door for $1.3 million. What do you do? What are your first steps to dig yourself out of that? And then literally, how do you get 1.3 million bucks together to pay the IRS back?
I was a negative millionaire. Okay. So I remember at one point I was in my car. Well, I had my BMW repossessed by the bank. I bought a beater car. It was an $1,800 Buick LeSabre, 1982 Buick LeSabre. The headliner would droop and sit on my head. So I drive like this, And I pulled up that car at a red light one time, looked over, and there's a homeless guy next to me. And I thought, man, that guy is $1 million richer than me.
Crazy.
And so I really hated him at that moment, which was a horrible way to look at it. But yeah, I got a letter from them, IRS. I had all my creditors after me, and it was bad. I mean, of course, at the time, everybody in real estate was being crushed. But I remember I didn't do anything. I remember I just gave up basically for a few years. I was like, I'm done. Like, I'm not going to try anything ever again. I don't know what I'm going to do. But I was kind of at the point where I didn't know what was going to be next for me. So for a few years, I just kind of bounced around and I just kind of doing side hustles, doing anything I could do to make money to kind of pay the bills. And frankly, it was finally a friend of mine that kind of got me back in. He's like, dude, one of my old mentors was like, you got to get back in the game. And so at that point, I decided I had to figure it out somehow. I don't know how, but I got to figure out a way to do it. And I had to find something big because there's no way I was going to dig myself out of a hole that big without finding a big opportunity.
Okay, so we're going to talk about how you dug yourself out of a $1.3 million hole with the IRS. Before we do that, I think there's some lessons in how you made that money that you lost. So Can you give us a little bit more detail on exactly how you went from absolutely nothing to a multimillionaire before you hit the downturn and lost it all?
Yeah, let's talk about it because there's some important lessons there. And some of the things I might say might be a little controversial, but it comes from my experience so far. So at the time, I was highly leveraged. So it was very easy to borrow money back then before the crash. You put down very little money to buy a lot of property. And so I did that. I was leveraged up like crazy. I started getting into developing properties. I started jumping around to different types of ways of, different techniques of making money in real estate, which I don't recommend. I built a 7-bedroom, 7-bath house on the beach on spec. I was going to sell it and make millions just on that one sale.
Can you give us an idea? I'm sorry to interrupt, but can you give, for the people back at home that are comprehending, we'll talk all about leverage in the recap, guys, so stay tuned to the recap. Can you talk a little bit about how leveraged you were? And to someone who might not know what that means, can you just give a quick definition of what it means?
So leverage means that, you could put down 2%, 3%, 5%, maybe nothing down on a property, and then leverage everything else. And so with the idea that you could hopefully cash flow more than what you were paying on the mortgage. So that's what I was doing. I was doing on properties that I had rented, but I was also doing on properties I didn't have rented, properties that were being built, properties that were being developed. And so when everything stopped, I didn't have enough cash flow to cover everything. And that's when everything started to implode, and it imploded for millions of people, not just me. So from that point, to this day, I have no personal debt. I haven't had debt since then. I pay cash for everything. I'm very much a fan of Dave Ramsey and that whole thing. And it lets me sleep well at night, knowing that my empire is not leveraged in any way. My company has none of my companies have debt of any kind. And so that's taught me a valuable lesson moving forward. But the most important lesson was that, when you have something, when you have it and you feel like you're successful and you lose it, it makes you question everything about your identity and who you are, and thinking, well, who am I now that I'm not successful anymore? And it kind of also gives you a gift of realizing that you aren't your success.
100%. I think there's so much truth to that. Like, I think you could think everything is going right. You could almost have like that God or goddess complex. And then you start to lose it all. You start to question everything. You question literally the way you walk, the way you talk, the way you sit, let alone the business decisions you make. So you're highly levered. The market takes a turn. You lose millions of dollars. And now the IRS is coming for you for 1.3 million. And you got to not only dig your way out, but you got to dig your way out big. So once you're in this hole, what was the turning? What was the first thing you did that got your wheels moving in the right motion to get yourself out of debt and the IRS not at your front door?
Well, at a certain point, I ran out of cash that I had saved, and I had to go get a job. And actually, that was the worst part of it. Was of all the things you just listed, the worst thing for me was getting a job, because I thought I was never going to go back to working for somebody else. I thought, I'm done with that. I mean, in fact, I was enjoying the jet set life, and I was just like this young kid with a bunch of money. And then suddenly I had to go like get some kind of job, and it just sucked. And every day I got up every day and I hated going to my job, and I was like, why am I doing this? I didn't like my coworkers. I wasn't, I look at my paycheck and I was like, that's all I get. Like, I couldn't believe how much they take out in taxes, and it was just not a good existence. So that was the roughest part. But when I was in that job, occasionally I had to fly to go to conferences, and on a particular flight, I sat down next to this gentleman who was wearing like a $40,000 Rolex and looked very successful. And he was just a very nice guy, started talking to me. And at the time I was renting out the spare room that I had in my apartment. I was renting a 2-bedroom apartment. I rented out the spare room, and I was making money on Airbnb with it, which was nothing monumental. But this was pretty early on in the Airbnb phase. And when I was on the plane with him, he started asking me all these questions about my little Airbnb unit and how I was making money with it. And I couldn't understand why he wanted to ask me all these questions, because he obviously had a lot of money. And after he asked me about 20 questions, I said, why do you want to know all this? Are you wanting to do this yourself? And he's like, no, Brian, I just think that you're sitting on something really big here. And I was like, what do you mean? He said, well, if you took this and you scaled it up, it could be a big business. And I said, well, yeah, but I can't buy properties. I don't have credit. I don't have money. I certainly don't want to borrow money again. He looked at me and he said, Brian, it's not about owning, it's about controlling. And if you can control properties, you can create cash flow from as many of these as you want. Control them through leases, control them through partnerships with owners. And that one idea of controlling assets is actually what I write about in this book, is the idea that you don't have to own assets. You can control other people's assets legally and ethically to generate cash flow. And that's what I did. I went home, immediately started finding properties for rent, putting them on Airbnb. Within 6 months, I made over $100,000, $300,000 the first year, quit my job, and never looked back. It was the last job I ever had.
So
and that led me on the path to where I'm at today. So yeah, that was a huge game changer. That's where it kind of started for me.
Gotcha. So you turn it around, down 1.3, and you got to get back. And you have this new philosophy that you learned from someone. You don't have to own an asset. You have to be able to control it. I think the biggest takeaway from that entire lesson is, especially if you're coming from, let's say, a lower class family or a middle class family, you don't have this massive capital, right? You look at like a Donald Trump. How did Donald Trump become a real estate tycoon? Obviously, he made some good plays as it relates to real estate, but he had a huge bankroll to do it. And cash is everything. But if you're back home and you're like, I don't have this cash, That is a philosophy that's never been said on this podcast. That is massive. You don't have to own assets. You have to know how to control them. That goes for everything, right? So this is your Airbnb model. But if you're a financial advisor, you don't have to be the multimillionaire. You got to know how to control them, right? You're selling something of high value. It could be like a Louis Vuitton purse. It could be a big car. You don't have to be the owner of that enterprise or that product. Can you broker it? There's so much to that. Talk about this though, $300K without putting any cash on the table and just controlling it. Define a little bit about this BNB formula and what it exactly means when you say you're controlling the property.
Okay, so by controlling property, that simply means now, first of all, you can do this with properties you own. I absolutely am for owning properties, but at the time I couldn't, so I had to control them. It just simply means that you would get permission from the owners to rent their property and list it on Airbnb, and you get to keep all the difference. So if I rent it for $1,000, I put it on Airbnb and it makes $3,000, I get to keep the difference. Now, if you partner with an owner, the owner might not be interested in letting you do that, but they might be interested in making more money. So you say, hey, Mr. Owner, that $1,000 you normally get from a long-term tenant, what if you could get $2,000? I'll do it, I'll manage everything, and we'll just split 50-50 or 60-40 or whatever, 80-20, the difference between what it brings in on Airbnb and what your rent is. So there's many different ways to do it, but you can do that. And it literally, the minute you get the property, within a few days, you can start generating cash flow. So it's a very fast way to generate cash flow. And now I started teaching people, and that kind of led me to the next phase of my life, which was understanding that you could own assets, like own properties, own businesses, but you could also control them, like I controlled other people's properties. But now you can create assets. So creating assets is where I created a course that taught people everything that I knew about Airbnb. I just so happened to be the first person to ever do a course on Airbnb. And sorry, I had a COVID last week. So I'm still recovering here. Within that first 6 weeks of launching that course, it did over $1 million in sales. So it went, and now it's done, tens of millions since then. So that course, that asset that I created, still to this day makes money. Many years later, still makes money. And now I've created digital products, digital book, ebooks, coaching programs, all these things that are online that are 100% hands off, that generate passive income. So the idea here behind this book is the idea of being a passive-preneur. And a passive-preneur is a person that makes money from assets, whether they own them, control them, or create them from scratch. And the cool thing is the world that we live in now, we're in a creator economy, we're in a sharing economy, we're not just in the old school economy. So the idea here is that there's so many ways now to make money passively because of technology that you couldn't even do 15 or 20 years ago. And Airbnb is just one of them.
So I got to stop you for a minute. I heard that you make $10 million plus on your online course. I need a breakdown of what that revenue is and how are you generating that kind of volume?
We've done over 15 million on just the course, and our coaching program, which is primarily what we do now. We found that a lot of people were not getting success with the course because they weren't implementing it. It had everything they needed, but they weren't taking action on it. So we started this process where we take our best students that are doing at least 6 or 7 figures a year. Some of them are doing 7 figures a year in Airbnb that have gone through my trainings, are now teaching people. So we have a coaching program that they're teaching people how to do what they did. So now we take people really, really fast and accelerate them through getting their first property and scaling and all that kind of stuff. And so that is primarily what we do now with BNB Formula, is coaching and helping people to do that. And that company, we're on track to be $100 million company. And so these are all progressively kind of stacked on each other. And the idea here is that all these different sources of income don't require my direct time. So, the idea here is that I don't want to be working 80 hours a week as an entrepreneur to avoid working a 40-hour week job, and entrepreneurs are always looking down on people that have jobs like, oh, well, I'm an entrepreneur, but the average entrepreneur in America right now makes $72,000 a year. So you're not really going to get rich on $72,000 a year, especially if that's 72 hours or 72,000 is earned working 60, 70, 80 hours a week. And so most people think that entrepreneurship is a path to wealth, and it is for some, but it's not the ultimate path. I think the ultimate path is passive income, and that's what I want to focus on.
And so this is your main thesis, Brian, right? Passive-preneur is that you will get rich not dedicating your time in exchange for dollars, but dedicating systems and processes that will be working on themselves and making money, generating like a machine, bringing cash flow while you're out doing other things. So let's just start with this, because the course is really important to me, and I think it's very impressive. Someone hears this, I even hear this, and I'm like, how do I sign up? So what is the cost for the
Yeah.
course? Where can someone find the course? And then give us, I understand people got to pay for the product, but give us a quick synopsis of what the course will teach us.
Okay. Well, I would recommend, we have several different paths for people. So I'd recommend if you're interested in that, just talk to our team. You can go to freebnbcall.com, freebnbcall.com. We have a whole bunch of different options for people. So that'd be the first thing that if somebody wants to learn more about that model. But I would suggest that first of all, they start with the book, because although I love it, it's my number one passive income vehicle. I think people need to understand the philosophy behind it and how it's not just about finding one vehicle. It's about setting up a bunch of these. You want to have a bunch of different sources of income in case one dries up, in case one is not a runaway hit. I mean, I had several sources before I found one that was a runaway hit. So the idea here is you want to have a lot of them all working for you, multiple streams of income coming in your life. And so that's kind of what I want to teach people how to do. And that's very different than side hustles. A good example of a side hustle would be Uber. If you're not in the car with your ass in the seat, you're not making money, because it's a hustle. And there's a lot of hustles out there and a lot of things that are disguised as, oh, this is a big business opportunity, but it's really just a hustle. And so the number one test to know whether or not something is a side hustle versus truly passive would be if you can scale up the amount of money you make while at the same time decreasing the amount of time involved. That is a passive income vehicle. So it has to be exponential. And the funny thing is that my course is a perfect example. I created the course years ago. I update it every 6 months or so. But other than that, I haven't touched it. So the amount of time I spend goes down, 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 down continually on the course, but the amount of money continues to rise. So my dollars per hour invested goes exponential. And that's the idea behind what I teach.
I love that testing is the thesis. It's very, very basic. I love basic because if your time deployed decreases, your income increases, you now have passive income. It's a monster plan. It's something that is so important, I think, to building wealth. Talk to me right now, the king of Airbnb, the passive-preneur who's out here teaching us how to do it. How many forms of passive income do you have right now coming into your bank account, cash inflow?
I was just counting them today because I was doing a presentation for it. I have 23 different sources.
23 sources. Okay.
23 different sources.
We're not going to make you list all of them, but give me your top 3 to 5 sources right now of income.
Okay. So I would say one of my top ones, besides, if we're not counting Airbnb, number one would be, or one of the top 3 would be affiliate offers. So this affiliate offers is simply where you're selling somebody else's products or services, and you get a commission or you get a percentage of their sales for offering their products and services to your audience or to your list. So it's almost zero effort. It could be something as simple as I'm going to send a few emails that offer people this other thing, and then they either buy it or they don't. When they buy it, I get a check, and it's literally that easy. Now that you need an audience for that, but it doesn't have to be a big audience. You can create an email list or do it on a social media or whatever. But the idea of selling someone else's products as an affiliate, I love.
Okay, so we're going to go through your top 3 forms of passive income today. Your first one, you said, other than the Airbnbs, affiliate marketing. What I love about affiliate marketing is you back home, you listening right now, you said you need an audience, but you can have an audience of 100 people. And if you have a link from some type of company and people that are watching you buy that link, they will pay you. And there are great affiliate programs out there. Like credit card companies are some of the best. They'll pay you $100-200 per time someone signs up. So affiliate marketing is huge. I got to ask you though, you have a following of 1.3 million on social media. If someone I'm just putting this out there, but let's say State Farm Insurance comes because they're trying to insurance Airbnb. They say, Brian Page, you're great. We love you. We're going to pay, we're going to cut you a check for $100,000 to do Instagram marketing. Would you prefer affiliate marketing or that money up front?
Well, I mean, that's like sponsorships, that's where you're doing sponsored content or you're a spokesperson. I mean, I haven't really done much of that, honestly, but I mean, that's another example. No, I've not done that. But that's certainly that could be passive, I guess, if you could have your team do it or somebody else do it. But I would say, mostly what I've done has been affiliate offers. So it's things that are related to what I teach. So let's say somebody's teaching how to flip properties. It's not what I teach, but it's related to real estate. It's related to my audience. I could offer them that course through this person. They buy it, and then boom, I get half the sale. So that's a great source. The other one that I love, one of my top 5, I would say, would be referrals. Now, referrals are really awesome because literally there's no time involvement. It's where I simply say, like I would say to you, Jason, I have a company that I'm making tremendous money with by offering their services to my customers. And what they do is they set up LLCs, they do tax consulting, they help people prepare their tax returns at the end of the year. Anything in the financial world they do. And I don't do that. So all I do is when people say, who do you use for accounting? Who do you use for your companies? I just send them there. And then I tell you about it. You send all your people there. And then I get a percentage of all the future business you do with that company forever. And it's just a referral. So it's literally, I just introduce you to this other guy, boom, checks start coming in because I'm now tapping into your network. So this can be done by anybody. It can be somebody that doesn't have an audience. You can just, but you have to know the right things. You have to know things that are valuable. Like if I told you about this and I showed how it could actually help your people and you're not actually offering that service, then why wouldn't you offer to that to people? So that's a referral. It's where I get paid on any business that comes out of the relationship that I just made happen between you and this other company. So referrals are a great way to make money. And there's literally no time involvement once you set it up. I get checks all the time or, deposits all the time from companies that I just refer to other companies.
I love it. Affiliate marketing, referrals, and give us one more of your top passive income streams. And guys,
okay.
We're live on TikTok. This is the first time we've ever gone live on a Trading Secrets podcast. You guys are talking right now or listening to Brian Page. You can follow him on YouTube, TikTok, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. And as we said in the intro, he is the king of Airbnb, best known for creating the BNB formula, which is all about how anyone can make money off controlling and managing Airbnbs as opposed to owning them. He's given us his top 2 forms of passive income. He has 23 streams now. And what's number 3, Brian?
All right. Number 3. Well, it's sitting right next to you and you already believe in this one. It's a book. A book.
All right.
Is one of the ultimate passive income vehicles right here, a book. So a book is different. It's very different because it requires a lot of time and effort. As you know, it's not easy to write a book.
Nope.
It's not easy to come up with the idea for a book and edit a book and all that kind of stuff. But this book is now done. So now this book is actually, it's on sale November 8th. I need to correct you on that. We had the wrong date on there. So November 8th, this book comes out. And when this book sells, every time it sells, I make a little royalty. Not going to get rich on that. But inside the book are embedded offers. Now, what embedded offers means, and I actually tell the reader this, okay, I don't hide this. Inside this book, there's all kinds of different things that I suggest that they do to make passive income. And if they do any of those things, guess who gets paid? Me. In fact, there's a QR code right there. And if they scan that QR code, when you get this book, you scan the QR code, I'm going to give you the list. I'm going to give you the top 10 list of PIVs, my list of 23 PIVs, and a comprehensive list of all of them that I know of, even ones that I don't do. And so anytime you go there and you take an action, guess who gets paid? I do.
You do.
And I'm very clear about that. So this book has 10 different streams of income within it. Not the book itself. I'll make way more from what's in the book than the book itself. And this will pay me again and again and again for the next however many years this book sells. It'll always exist. And I only did the effort one time. So this is a perfect example of passive income vehicle.
And where can people can they pre-order it right now?
Yeah. So what I suggest, you can get the book on Amazon, but I would not suggest going to Amazon because if you go to my site, I'm going to give you a whole bunch of bonuses for the same price. Okay. You're going to buy the book for $26, but you buy it from my website. So go to brian.page/book. brian.page/book. And when you get the book, what I'll do is I'll give you an instant audio download. So you can download the first 3 chapters. It's me narrating the first 3 chapters in the intro to the book, a PDF of those chapters. And also I'm going to give you access to a workshop. It's called the Passive-preneur Workshop, where I go into like how to apply this stuff. And you're going to get access to a Facebook group that's full of passivepreneurs like me. So other people that are doing radical things that I've never even thought of. So you're going to get access to all those for free, just for ordering 1 copy of the book. But you got to do it through my site, not go into Amazon.
I love, Brian, what I love about your model is the transparency. There's so much bullshit out there. There's MLMs, which I don't believe in, but your model of saying, I will teach you how to make money. And guess what? I'm going to make money when you make money.
I demonstrate it. That's the thing. And I'm not hiding it. I'm like, you guys go do these things. I'm going to get paid. So, but only buy them if you want to buy them or use those services if you want to, but this is how I make passive income. I'm showing you how to do it. And anybody could write a book. I mean, there's 1,000,001 big brands of people you and I all know that have launched their companies from books. Books are very, very important still today. And that's part of, it's one of my number 1 vehicles.
Okay, so for someone sitting back home, they said, I have an idea. I can also write a book. I can do this. I don't have a launchpad. I don't have 1 million followers on Instagram. I wasn't
Yeah,
on a reality show that gave me that platform to connect with like a HarperCollins.
of
How do
course.
you think they can write a book? And did you go through a big publisher? Did you self-publish?
No, this is HarperCollins.
Okay.
So I'm with HarperCollins.
On the
It's
same
a
team here.
long story how I secured HarperCollins as a first-time author, but for one thing, I had already sold 130,000 copies of my Airbnb book. I don't have it here handy, but I sold 130,000 copies of my own self-published book, which was over $1 million in sales, which was also a passive income vehicle. I wrote a book about Airbnb, sold it, then the book sold other products. I have all these different products around Airbnb. So, so I would suggest,
Bachelor audience out there, I'm sorry to interrupt. I just
sure.
want to put in perspective, 130,000 copies is massive. Selling that amount of books is huge, especially if self-published. I don't want to speak for anybody. I would be hard pressed to believe that maybe 1 or 2 people ever from the franchise has sold over 100,000 books of The Bachelor. So I know I have a lot of Bachelor fans out there, but
Oh,
over
here's the 2
130,000
books.
copies. Okay,
So so it's not even a real book. I mean, it's a booklet. Okay, it's a small booklet, but this is what I've sold now. 130,000 copies of these. In fact, you can buy this if you want to buy this. You'll probably see my ads online and stuff. But this is a passive income vehicle. It's a way to introduce people to my world and my concepts and what I teach. And then in it is an offer to buy something else. So it generates income. But to answer your question, let me go back to your question. Being an author might not be the first option for people. I mean, some people want to get going fast and they don't have a lot of the resources. I didn't have the resources. I didn't have any following a few years ago. Nobody knew who I was. So, I started with my favorite one, which was, taking a property, renting it from somebody, throwing it on Airbnb, making a couple $1,000s a month on that one property, which, I got so many people doing that all over the world now through our program. It's not that hard. It's not that complicated. So it's really a matter of the number one thing that people need to do is free up their time. And unless you love your job, you need to get out of that job. We need to get you out of that as fast as possible. So you need to find a way to replace your income and then some as quickly as possible. So let's say you're making 50 grand a year. I'd like to see you making 75 a year before you walk away from that job, at least 1.5 times. And that can be done on Airbnb with, I don't know, 4 or 5 properties, maybe 6. I mean, not many at all. And that can be done in a few months. I have students that I have teenage clients of ours that are getting 4 or 5 properties in their first 30 days. Like within 30 days, they secure like a whole handful of properties and they're just off to the races. And it doesn't happen for everybody that fast, but it's just doable to do in 6 months or less. It really is. And
Wow.
so that's an amazing vehicle. So I would suggest focus your effort on a vehicle that is really, really fast, doesn't require you to have a lot of resources. And that would be a perfect example of that.
I love it. All right. So one of the reasons I started with your crash, that was the first thing we opened up with this podcast. Owing, losing every penny, owing the IRS 1.3 million is because I want to get to the success story now. And I don't want, some people with like taxes and stuff, they're like, they don't want to talk about, but let's just talk gross dollars, top line on an annual basis, top line. And obviously this is not reflective of net. What are you bringing in on a year now?
Well, among all of my different sources, a little over 7 figures a week consistently.
7 figures a week.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's net. I mean, that's not sales. That's actual net cash. So yes, we're at 5 to 6 million a month in sales, and we're projected to be over 2.5 a week in the next 90 days. That's our goal to be at, as far as like we're just scaling at this point. So
okay, and I'm leading
tremendous numbers
because I think what people think is, especially back home, $1 million a week over.
I mean, it sounds ludicrous. I mean,
yeah,
it does.
It sounds ludicrous,
and I get it.
But I think people also will assume, oh, you got hundreds of employees, you got a manufacturing plant.
I love talking about that.
You don't, though. I know you're based on your infrastructure. You don't. So if you're making over $1 million a week, tell me about how many people are operating these businesses.
Okay. So, well, I mean, I run a very lean team. So I'm in an office right now. I'm the only one in this building that works for my company. I'm it. I've got independent contractors that work indirectly for me. I've got an amazing coaching team. I have a huge sales team, of course. But no, I don't have a lot of employees. I don't have a big office. My office here is probably 300 square feet. And I keep it very lean. It's mostly info. It's also some coaching. So it's high margins. And now granted that, not everybody has to be thinking about that. I mean, most people are just looking for a way to be free. Like if they could make 100,000 a year passively, they would jettison the job. They'd have a whole different life.
Sure.
So it's kind of like when you talk about these numbers, people first of all think you're full of it, and secondly, they think they want to discount anything you have to say because it's so far out of their reality. But at the same time, you have kids that are creating social media platforms that are worth billions and they have no profit, and you have Elon Musk who's gonna be a trillionaire soon. So the idea that money is just so freaking abundant, it just really is, and people will need to get their mind around that. But so it's not so much about what I've done, it's more, I'm more excited to talk about what I've helped other people do. And I've helped lots of other people become millionaires, lots of other people to make enough money to completely change their life, and to finally just stop doing the crap that they don't want to do anymore, the jobs they hate, and go in and doing things they don't want to do, maybe even their own business that they would quit tomorrow if they could, because it's stuck in their life.
Can you think of, I love that too. You're also making a huge impact, and that's one of your success stories. Can you think of someone off the top of your head who has like the ultimate restart story, came from nothing? And specifically what I'm really interested in is what this person's making and like exactly what they did to do it. Was it the Airbnb route? Was it online courses? Can you give us an example of one?
Yeah. I mean, a lot of people, who you talk to is kind of related to what industries you're in. I talk to a lot of marketers because I do a lot of online marketing, a lot of social media influencers, and then also a lot of real estate people. So I would say that the person that comes to mind for me is there's a gentleman who joined our coaching program right before the pandemic. It was like a couple months before everything just shut down. He joined our coaching program. The whole world ground to a halt. Nobody was traveling. Nobody was flying. The CEO of Airbnb, Brian Chesky, said his company was done. He said, we're done, basically. Thought everything, the end of the world, right? He decided to join our coaching program right then. And he just decided to shut out all the noise and all the things that were going on. And he just said, I'm going to do it anyways. So he went out, and within 30 days, he got 3 listings, 3 properties that he didn't own within 30 days. Now, this guy was making well over 6 figures a year already. He was making a healthy salary, had a nice benefits, and he had a tax business on the side, which was his side hustle. It's taking all his time. And he's like, I got to find something that doesn't require all my time, and I think this is going to be the vehicle for me. So within 30 days, he got 3 listings. Within 9 months, he walked away from a 6-figure job, and he quit his tax business, sold it, and he lived off his Airbnbs, and he's making more than he was at those 2 things that he was doing. And then he got to the point where he automated his properties so it could be hands off and be more passive. And he started traveling with his family, enjoying time. He would take 3 or 4 days just to be at home with his new son that he just had, and just lived a completely different lifestyle. And now that guy has become one of our coaches inside of our coaching program. So now he comes back once a week, teaches for 90 minutes, once a week. And he's one of our trainers, and he teaches people how to do the same thing because it changed his life. So that's a perfect example of the kind of person that I help.
The success story is incredible. That could be, I think, anybody at home listening. My only response would be to that, if for people out there that are naysayers saying it's over concentrated, there's too many people doing it, there's only too many Airbnbs.
Yeah.
And by the way, market's taking a downturn right now. We'll get into some of that. What would your response be to there's just too many people doing it right now?
Well, it's kind of like when I started flipping properties in my 20s, I started getting into flipping properties. There was nobody doing it. There was literally not a single TV show on TV about flipping properties. And when even my friends were like, well, flipping is illegal. Like, I was like, it's not illegal. They were like, yeah, it can't be legal. And I was like, it is legal. And then finally all these shows came out, became mainstream. Now it's like, I mean, nobody's not heard of flipping properties. I mean, and people are still doing it. And there's 1,000,001 courses and books about how to do it and all that kind of stuff. But yet, is it still a viable business model? It is. Have the techniques changed? Yes, they have. There's a lot of things have changed about it, but people are still making money flipping properties. It's still a business. It's still viable. And the same thing is true with short-term rental. Short-term rental, the industry is still growing. It's not in maturity yet. It's still growing at an insane clip. And the number of people that are using the services, the number of travelers is actually increasing faster than the number of hosts. So the idea that it's too saturated, no, I mean, I don't believe that at all. And I believe you have to be smart about where you list. You got to know what kind of property to choose. You got to make sure you're not putting yourself in a position where you're going to lose money. That's one of the things I love about the model. You don't have to buy property, put down a big down payment, buy a property and find out it's not going to work. You could partner with an owner on a month-to-month basis. There's literally no risk. I could say to you, hey, Jason, let's list your property tomorrow. And if it doesn't work for either one of us, we'll just part ways in 30 days. Let's just try it. And you're like, okay. And we try it and we both make money. I mean, it's literally like that. I'm not signing a lease. I'm not giving you money up front. I'm just showing up at your house, taking photos, of your furnished property, putting them on the home sharing sites and off to the races. So it's one of those things where there's always going to be somebody saying why it can't be done. There's always going to be that kind of thing. But yet I got students every day that are finding properties, listing them and making money. So, and you don't have to do it in your own hometown. You can do it in other states. You can do it in other metro areas. I've got a student that's getting properties in Atlanta and they live out in Phoenix, and I'm actually funding some of their deals. I'm writing a check to be a passive investor in some of their deals, so I'm funding, I write a check and then I sit back and collect money. So, it's just one of those things where people are going to believe what they want to believe when they don't know anything about the business and they've never been in it. So it's still an incredible opportunity for people. And it is, again, I don't know of any no risk opportunity to create cash flow quite like this. A lot of these other ones take a lot of effort. I mean, doing a course is a lot of effort. Writing a book, a lot of effort. It's not something in 30 days or in 2 weeks you start making cash. With Airbnb, the minute you list the property, it could be within 24, 48 hours, you start getting bookings. It's like, boom, okay, you just got a $600 reservation. It's like, okay, this is going to work. So you see that happen very, very, very fast.
And I'm all about making quick adjustments and doing something with instruction that's quick, because I think when someone sees an instant return based on a quick action, they get more motivated and they're more interested to do it. So let's do that right now. Anyone listening or here live, you can go find someone who owns a property. This is one simple instruction. Go talk to them and ask them if you can list their property for rent. And you can come up with a price point, increase the price point so you can make some off the top, and then boom, just like that, it can be taken care of.
And remember, they're looking for you. They're looking for a tenant. You're just going to give them the best option they have. They're looking at 20, 30, 50 possible tenants, and you go to them and say, rent it to me because you're going to make more money with me.
So people back home though, that's the easiest instruction from this entire conversation.
Yes.
Where do they go find these people? Where do they go to say like, okay, I'm going to go call right now. How am I going to find out who is looking for a tenant?
Well, if you work with us, we'll help you just find the properties. That's what we do in our program. We can actually give you the leads in your own area to go find the properties. We'll instruct you on how to do that. We'll teach you on how to pitch the owners to get guesses from them. We'll help you build out an entire online presence with an entire online brand. So when somebody searches for Jason in Des Moines, they're going to say, wow, this guy's legit. He's got a whole website. He's got all this stuff. He's got videos I can watch about explaining the business process. We do everything like turnkey for people. That's kind of part of what we do to help them launch a real business. And then most importantly is to automate it. Because if you do this, I mean, I know so many people that do Airbnb and that's all they do. They spend all their time doing it. I don't spend any time because it's all automated. It's all hands off. So it's not going to work for me to teach people how to do this if it becomes a job for them. And believe me, when you get a few of these properties going, it can turn into a job. So you have to figure out how to get yourself out of the day-to-day operation so it becomes passive. And if it's not passive, you're not a passive-preneur. So that's the whole idea behind what I teach is I practice what I preach, and I want to help people to do that and not create another business or job for themselves.
I love it. Easiest place to start, guys. Go to Brian Page's website. His book comes out November 4th.
November 8th.
Yeah. November 8th. We will correct that and edit that through because we had the wrong dates earlier. Don't start a side hustle. You can get it on his website. Brian, I got to get your take on the real estate market in general, right? We know interest rates right now, 30-year fixed average are around 7%. U.S. homes sold are down 17% year over year. We know that supply is up around 15%. And we know in February, homes year over year were appreciating at 20%. And now if you look at the appreciation numbers year over year, it's about 5%. So all indicators are showing the housing market in general is struggling. What's your take? And if you had the crystal ball, what do you predict will happen?
Okay, it sounds very familiar to what happened in 08. I can't predict any more than anyone else can predict, but I can tell you what always happens is cycles don't change. So every day, night will follow. You can guarantee till the end of time, there will always be night after day, and after day is night again. Every winter, there will be a spring. Every summer, there'll be a fall. It never changes. And the same thing is true with almost all asset classes and financial realities, are that there's always going to be new seasons. So the idea to think that good times are going to be here forever, that's just not going to happen. And the idea that if we have a major crash, that's the end of it, is also not true, because the opportunity will also again follow crisis. It's opportunity crisis all the time. So I believe we could be near another crisis. It could be way bigger than real estate. I mean, I personally believe it'll be everywhere. It'll be a dollar crisis. It'll be a financial crisis. It'll be something much, much bigger. But I can't predict if or when that'll happen. All I can tell you is I'm prepared. I've gone through it one time, and I'm not going to lose again going through it again. So I think that's why I'm very debt averse, and I believe you should put your money in lots of different asset classes. You should asset allocate, and not just be in one asset class. Because last time I was just in real estate, so I lost everything in real estate. Had I just diversified in a couple other places, I would have been fine. So I learned that lesson. So I think the only thing people can know is that it will get worse at some point. Could get very worse, and be prepared for it. Don't be surprised for it. Just get ready for winter, and then be smart during the summer. Be smart when you're harvesting. Don't spend all the money you have. Don't live beyond your means. Think about these things now, but who knows? I can't predict what'll happen, but things always change. But that's the thing. There's good times and bad times. That's all it is. It's just a cycle.
All right, so we got the clip right here. Brian Page says crisis is coming. I think one of the cool things, Brian, about your entire philosophy and your business model is that if crisis is coming, like you said, you don't have debt on the table. The banks aren't coming back to you. The IRS is not asking you for that $1 million+ because you turned everything up. So then I got to ask you, this is the final question I got for you before we go into your trading secret. You're grossing right now 7 figures a week. What is the ultimate plan? Is the plan to be in a position where you have so much passive income, you never have to work an hour? Do you have like a main goal, main strategy based on what you're doing? What does it look like?
Well, that's a good question. I've actually been reducing my hours worked every year. I've been trying to reduce. In fact, I want to get down to about 15 hours a week in the office, or whatever, spent on these vehicles. I mean, I could stop now. Honestly, what takes any of my time is starting something new, like launching a new passive income vehicle. But I think what I want to do now is I want to focus more on lifestyle, more time with my family, really kind of going back to where I was years ago, where I could just do whatever I want all day and I'm not spending too much time thinking about business. And then I also want to probably either sell my company one day or take it public, which would be kind of the ultimate play. And I think that would probably be the biggest financial move I could make. And at that point, I don't know what I would do next, but I would probably spend a lot less time but trying to make more money and being on that trap and treadmill of more, because there's always a trap. The billionaire just wishes he was a multi-billionaire. It's always, there's always somebody with more.
When's enough?
Always, yeah. And the idea is not to just stop and then kick back and be lazy and do nothing the rest of your life. That's not the idea. But there are just a lot of other things that take time that I would like to do with my life. And so I think that's one of the big ones I wanted to check off was writing the book. And so that was a big thing for me to do. But I think that's it for me. I think it's focusing more on lifestyle, getting down to very, very few hours that I spend doing anything that's not being with family, being with friends, doing travel and things that I love, and my church and the other things that I really value.
Amazing. I just have one last question, because that answer circles back to where this whole thing started. The foundation of all your success is a lot of this coaching in your Airbnb model. How much time did it take you to record and build this coaching platform, and how much money did you have to invest to create this epicenter of what's driven everything?
Oh, wow. Okay. Well, I started in 2017. Was around the time I started with my course, and then I started launching. I sold my books and a lot of other digital products. The coaching program is relatively new, I would say within the last 12 months or so, but it took everything before that to get to the point where I am now, because I wouldn't have known how to teach it if I hadn't helped thousands of people to get results and refine the process, refine the formula of how it works, get world-class coaching team of students together that could teach other people, kind of duplicate myself. That's kind of what you have to do.
Sure.
So all that, I mean, it's hard to even know how much I've reinvested in that, but it's all cumulative. It really is. But at the same point, I've always tried to find the right people to make sure they are running as much as I can, incentivize them to run things so that I'm not involved. So, I used to do coaching one-on-one, and then I got to the point where people were offering me absurd amounts of money to coach. And I said no. And I still say no. I mean, I don't have my time for sale at all. So I just don't do one-on-one coaching. And now I have coaches that some of them have earned even more than I have. They've done way beyond what I've done in Airbnb, and they're now coaching people. So I've been able to let people kind of rise up and do what they want to do, which is teach and help people and stuff like that. And that helps me stay out of the day-to-day, stay out of a lot of the, so I'm not pulled back into a side hustle,
I love it.
That's kind of where I'm at.
It's brilliant. I'm big on the philosophy of bettering your health and building your wealth. This passive income strategy is clearly one that'll help you get there. Brian, we got to leave with one trading secret, something someone couldn't find in a classroom, reading a textbook, or be taught by anyone other than Brian Page. What is your trading secret you can leave us with?
Trading secret. So with that, I guess that could be the life too, right?
It could be anything, life, money management, whatever you want. One trading secret.
All right. My trading secret would be that circumstances will be out of your control, but you and what you learn and the thoughts you think and the books you read and the beliefs that you have, they are all in your control. You can control you, and that's all you can control. So spend all of your effort, all of your time improving yourself, working on yourself, and let everything else go.
I like that. Take control of what you can, because life will throw you a lot of uncontrollables. Brian, thank you so much for coming on Trading Secrets and sharing all your insight. One more time, where can people find the book, your courses, and everything you have going on?
Absolutely. Go to brian.page/book. There's information there about my book and about me, and get all those bonuses I talked about for ordering one copy. And then if you want to learn more about Airbnb and talk to our team, go to freebnbcall.com. That's freebnbcall.com.
I love it. Guys, we're going to buy 5 books. Go to the reviews, give us 5 stars, put your Instagram handle, and we are going to give 5 of his books out to you guys. Thank you so much, Brian, for coming on. We appreciate your time, and congratulations on all your success.
Thank you, Jason. Appreciate it.